Welcome to the first edition of the 300 podcasts, where we're going to be discussing themes and tactics about how to supercharge agency growth. Today, I'm joined by Omar Oakes of Media Leader. And today we're going to turn it on its head, where Omar is going to be interviewing me to give you guys a bit more insight about who 300 is, why we exist, and what we're actually going to be doing. So welcome, Omar.
Thank you for having me, Patrick. As Patrick said, I'm Omar Oakes. I'm the founding editor of the Media Leader. I've been a journalist in this advertising and media industry for nearly 10 years. Gosh, that makes me feel old. I'm very keen. I've always championed new people and new industries to help bring oxygen and new dynamism and life to this industry. So I'm really excited when people launch agencies. So I'm really pleased to talk to you today. The question you must get asked off the bat all the time: where's the name 300 come from?
It's weird, I get asked one of two questions. I either get asked, where does 300 come from? Or is it to do with Spartans? So there is a slight side story to Spartans, but it's not really about Spartans. So the premise is that we can automate 2/3 of all the work that we do now. So if we split our work into thirds, the first third is about exploration, where you're exploring what the challenge is. You put 100% of your available time into that. The second third is preparation. You're bringing it all together to distill your thinking, and you put 100% of your time into that. And the final third is the bit that makes a difference and wins the pitches. So if we can automate those first 2/3 and take those two 100% and put them into that final third, you're putting 300% of your effort into the bit that actually makes a difference. Now, I know that's probably slightly hokey maths, but you kind of get the principle behind it. So our proprietary AI system called Neo allows us to automate those 2/3 so we can put all of our brain power into that final third. There is a slight Spartan story, you could say, as a sidebar, just that what we're hoping is the capability at 300 will allow smaller agencies to go up against bigger agencies because of what we're providing to them. So there's a slight David and Goliath story there. And the ultimate David and Goliath story is the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans fought against about 100,000 Persians, and unfortunately they all died in the end. But you kind of get the premise of it.
I know you're a busy guy. You've got lots going on with this new enterprise. Let's get straight into it. What's the need in the market for a company like 300? What does it do?
So 300 is a strategic growth consultancy. So we were born out of the fact that, from our observations, agencies are brilliant at telling clients that where best to invest their money to grow their businesses. But unfortunately, when it comes to doing it themselves, they're often left lacking. So we have built a set of senior industry leaders. We've come together to provide a growth capability for agencies. And when I say capability, I mean something that has talent, it has processes, has technology, has feedback loops and leadership within it. So we will work with agencies ideally to help them build that capability within their business. We'll fly in, we'll build it, and then we'll be off again. I've always thought making yourself redundant is not the best business model in the world, but that is actually our aim.
Sounds like risky business. You, of course, were at agency side yourself, most recently at Omnicom Media Group. Tell us from the inside, what have you identified as a need, and how do you hope, everyone's talking about AI. How do you see using LLMs, AI, as the opportunity to help agencies pitch?
When first crafted 300, so what it does, it brings together brand fame, which is strategic marketing. It brings together winning more, which is pitch excellence, innovative commercial models, and it brings together delivering experiences, which is all those assets that you need to create to drive those other two. And the thought was, say in 5 years' time that, we wanted to get out, we wanted to sell it. I'm not saying we do. You can't really it's hard to sell a bunch of people. There needs to be a product that sits at the bottom of it. So we've created a proprietary AI system. It's called Neo. So it's a neural executive officer. It's our partner as we go through the various elements of everything we do, and it automates about 2/3 of everything that we do. So all of these super senior people that work at 300 can focus on that 1/3 that actually really makes a difference. The ideas, the strategy, the innovation. If you think about a pitch, there's so much foundational work you have to do that doesn't really add much value, but you have to do it. Neo will do that for us, so we can make sure the 1/3 that makes a difference, the bits that actually wins pitches or comes up with great marketing strategies, that's where we focus our time.
So I imagine it's mostly smaller independent companies that you're talking to, not so much the holding companies, or are you speaking to them as well?
We go from big holdcos that we're talking to right down to smaller organizations, and each of them need a slightly different thing. Some of them are looking for help to define who their agency is so they can communicate around it. Some of them are asking for, how do we get better at pitching? They have similar challenges to the independent agencies, who are often more clear on who they are, but they're not quite sure how they tell their story, whether it is to their staff, whether it is to the wider industry, or whether it's actually in a pitch. Many of the more specialist agencies have come from quite a technical background, so they kind of jump into a pitch talking about technical stuff when actually clients probably aren't that technical. And some of the agencies we're talking to are looking to make that step up into winning like tier one clients, as they might call it. But then they're jumping into the world of the holdcos, where you've got amazing strategists, amazing storytellers, people that will take a client on a journey. So they need to learn that skill of having a narrative that takes a client on a journey. And it's also for us to advise them on, how do you create an experience for a client when they're on that journey? The human brain loses concentration every 20 minutes. So how can you tell that story that every 20 minutes breaks it up with different, maybe multimedia elements of it, or experiential elements, or just different people and tone of voice and intonation, but to really help keep a client's attention for a whole 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's big or small agency. The thing that everyone stresses about nowadays is the clients, and marketing is becoming more complex and more complicated, and media keeps fragmenting, and these poor old clients, and they get attacked for not being clued up on running a great pitch process, for example. And agencies privately might have a lot to say about that, but it is tough, isn't it? Do you think this is the toughest it's ever been, that the whole pitch process, whether you're marketer side or agency side?
It's a bit like in the world of trading. People are saying it's a race to the bottom. They've said that for 20 years. And in the world of pitches, people say the pitch process is broken. And they've been saying that for sort of a very long time. Pitches are tough, I think they're hard on clients. Just think, if you're a marketing client, you need to understand media, creative, CRM, PR, branding. I can barely keep up with media, and all I do is media. So it's quite tough on clients to really be up to date on all of these different elements within marketing, which is why it comes back to an agency. If you give a client a single-minded proposition in every piece of comms they receive, you give them a pitch that is based around that, with a narrative that takes them on a journey, which is quite simple. When they've left the room and they've done 5 of these, and each one's 3 hours long, they probably will remember almost nothing about any of them, apart from that group where I just walked out and I felt really good about them. I felt that they were kind of a bunch of people I'd like to work with. You get that. Process sounds boring. You get that by having a really rigorous pitch process that allows everybody to be brilliant. They know where they need to be, when they need to be, how they need to show up. Everybody is looked after, and they turn up relaxed. And, changing slides on the taxi on the way over, or staying up till 2 a.m, or none of that should ever happen on a pitch, ever. All it does is wear people out, and they turn up, kind of like shaking because they've had so much coffee and so little sleep. So, and that's part of what we're working with some agencies about, is that pitch process is so important. It's so boring, people think. Creative agencies are like, well, it will stem my creativity. No, it won't. It will give you more space for creativity, because you know exactly the space and the place that you'll have to do what you need to do.
And exactly as you were saying before, is that agencies out there, they must never forget, to your point just now about marketers, people buy from people. At the end of the day, it's how you feel from that pitch process.
Yeah.
And the more that human beings allow themselves, with all the options of technology that we have, to get bogged down in the jargon and the mechanics of everything, if all our job is to convey the benefits of technology, as opposed to enable us to really discover how to connect with people, how to be even more creative, I think the people who really get that are going to win. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. I don't know.
Let's hope not. I think agencies a while ago went through this phase of just talking about their tech. Look at what we've got. When actually it's not really what we've got, it's what it's going to do for you as a client. Because with all due respect, clients aren't that bothered in the agency and the agency's creds and the agency's culture and ethos. They are important, but they care about how all of that's brought together and how that's going to help them. That's what they really care about. And you say people by people. I remember years ago being on a pitch where we came second, but we won the pitch. Because
how's that work?
I know it's crazy because the client just go, I like you a lot more. It's like they were a bit more polished on the day, but I can see ourselves working with you more than I can with them. So we are still a bunch of people working with a bunch of people. So comes back to that, having a pitch team that turns up in a room, they're super relaxed, they know what they're doing because they've had time to rehearse, because they've been kind of looked after, and the process has been made as easy as possible. You know, clients can feel that in the room. If a team's anxious or if they're happy, if they're excited, you just get that off of a pitch team.
Tell me why you've decided to launch this particular series, this 300 series, when there are so many podcasts, B2B podcasts even nowadays. What kind of conversations do you hope to have going forward?
So I guess there's 4 key elements of 300. There is where you can say we're a bunch of AI powered people. So it's interesting, there's conversations around how AI is helping agencies grow. And there's AI, I get it, there's AI, podcasts all over the place. But it's all wrapped up into the conversation around growth. And I say we talk about holistic growth. So it's about the single-minded proposition of an agency, what they're saying, where they say it, how that feeds into long-term prospecting strategies. You're 3 times more likely to win a pitch that you've prospected and you know the client. Then how that single-minded proposition then lands in your pitch. So for anything you go into, you're almost already halfway there because you're really clear on who you are, what you're about, what makes you distinct from the market. And then round, as I say, to the assets that you create. So all of the conversations are going to be about the one thing that every agency wants, whether you are publicly owned, privately listed or equity backed, everybody wants growth. From conversations I've had, and I'm casting vast kind of, sort of generalizations, but on the whole, agencies do not have a growth capability built within their organization. So we're thinking if we're giving them tips, tricks, insights into having a better capability, that's what the podcast is meant to do. And we also have a written content stream called 300 Words On, where we're trying to comment things in the industry, things that tie everything back to growth and how you can use the knowledge of 300, which is about 20 of us. And I'd say on average, 15 years is the average time in the industry. We've got 25, 30-year people. So they know what they're talking about. So it's for other agencies to tap into that knowledge.
Oh, good luck getting all of those into 300 words each. I mean, as a journalist, I know how tough that could be.
That is true. That is very true.
I found that extraordinary when you talk about agencies generally not having growth capability. I mean, it must be more, you're offering a technical solution that's going to help with that. It sounds like it runs deeper than that, a cultural issue. What's behind that?
I think it comes back to that P and that L thing. It's the L. So marketing, new business teams, they're hard to equate the value that they add to the business growth of an organization. So if I run a pitch and we win a pitch, is it down to me or is it down to the other 25 people that worked on it? Marketing within the industry is quite a long-term thing. How do you value the contribution that has to your business growth? We're talking to lots of clients and they're bringing in low-level new business people or lower level marketing people. So they have a facilitative role and that's great. And, you absolutely need that. But agencies are tending not to have a long-term strategic vision on their growth. And long-term could even just be a year. Most agencies aren't really even looking at that. Pitch for everything, throw it at the wall, hopefully some of it will stick. Rather than thinking, we only have a finite amount of resource. Let's pick the 3 we think we can go after I think if you pick 3 in a year, you might win 2, but most agents are going for 10 and they don't win any or they win 1. So it's just how you orchestrate your resources.
Assuming everything goes fantastically well for you, you pick up loads of business, have loads of clients, have loads of success, what do you think the impact going forward will be on these agencies once you help to improve that growth capability? For instance, when we talk about media agencies nowadays, you hear a lot about, the buzz phrase lately has been creativity is the new targeting. You talk about the potential of media to do more using data, more personalization at scale. You don't hear a lot from the media side about making brands famous anymore. Do you think perhaps it's an opportunity for media to do more of that now that they have AI to free them up to do that?
You would hope so. You would hope that if you are automating some of the lower value tasks or the foundational things to get to great ideas, it gives people more space to think. Brand fame is hugely important. And some would say over the last 10 years of, data and technology sitting at the heart of everything that we do, micro-targeting, versioning, there's been a lot more of a focus on that than there has been on creative output. I know a lot of the creative agencies have had probably a tough time over the last few years because it's not, give me a big master brand campaign. It's like, no, give me 73 individual assets that can sit across every size screen imaginable. It's quite a tough ask for them. But we're in a creative business, and it should really be about brand fame and then how that ladders down into new client acquisition or keeping your current clients. So just throw one back at you, Omar. You asked me about my view on brand fame, almost 4 brands, but going to agencies. So you've interviewed probably some of the most senior people within our industry. What's your view on the importance for agencies to have a very distinct positioning and to use that to drive their brand fame to ultimately achieve growth?
I think it's never been more important. I think there's this paradox where you think you only need to scroll your LinkedIn feed nowadays, and it seems like every senior bod at an agency this week wants to talk about DeepSeek. Last week it was about Facebook and content moderation changes. I think that ups the ante for everyone to really stand out amid all the noise out there. And we've just talked a lot about AI. It's the elephant in the room. A lot of what you see on social media is being created by AI nowadays, words and pictures. So it's really incumbent on agencies of any size, but particularly challenger agencies, a lot of the people that you're talking to really look internally, whether it's senior leadership or whether it's entry-level people that are coming into the organization, however big or small you are, to really think about what your purpose is. And I know that the word purpose can be kicked around a lot, as being dismissed as namby-pamby stuff.
Yeah.
But it really, really is important to define why we're doing this business, what separates us from our competition, who even is our competition, because a lot of agency brands haven't worked that out. And then once you do that hard work, you start to think about how we're going to talk to market, whether that's through thought leadership, how we talk about it in our creds, how even we conduct ourselves internally in the office. You hear about it all the time where some of the best consumer marketing campaigns we've ever had, the John Lewis Christmas campaign, for example. One of the reasons that's such a powerful campaign over the years doesn't get talked about enough is how it galvanizes the staff internally when they see that ad, when people come into the shop and everyone knows about that marketing campaign. Everyone knows what it means to be a John Lewis partnership employee. And it's amazing how, after so many years, agency brands are in the business of marketing for their clients, but they still haven't figured out, a lot of them, how to market for themselves. So I think of all the technology changes we're finding, the barriers to entry getting lower of communication in our industry, it really has never been more important.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. We talk to clients about their marketing, and their target is their people, it's their current and future clients, and it's their industry. But we always start by talking about their people, because an agency wants their staff to be proud of who they work for, to be able to tell people this is what we're about. And I think there's a lot of agencies that might struggle in that space to articulate exactly what they're about.
Yeah, and I get it. It's difficult, right? And particularly if you're a tech-led business where you have a lot of technical operators and they're product people for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technical and salespeople, and they fall in love with the product and they really believe passionately about the product. But I've seen it from the other side as an editor over so many years where you're pitched thought leadership or press releases, and it comes across as very salesy.
Yeah.
Often, a lot of these smaller agencies in particular, it's almost a case of they don't know what they don't know. And I would implore all of those people to do the hard work of figuring out, to quote Simon Sinek, who gets overly quoted enough, find out your why. What is your why? And even that process, even if it doesn't lead to a lot of external communications, it can really internally clarify as leadership, how are we talking about what we're doing? How are we going to address this pitch? What client accounts might we be prepared to say no to? Because you know what? That's not going to strategically work for us in the long run. I think if you do that work, it can actually make your long-term planning a lot easier. Finally, I have noticed on your branding, you've got a goat that features quite prominently. What is this all about? Is it your favorite animal? Is it something clever about greatest of all time? What's going on there?
So the goat was actually a mistake originally. It ended up within the branding and I kind of liked it. And that's kind of quite a nice thing about doing your own thing, the creative freedom that if I want a goat, I'm going to have a damn goat. So the goat has ended up staying. We put some wings on the goat because we thought it should have wings.
This is sounding like an AI hallucination. Did the program come up with this?
It was. So the brief to the brand person was that I wanted impossible images. So images where you look at them and it takes you about 2 seconds to realise it's not quite right. So for example, we have a Bedouin tent that is in the desert. And when you look closely, you're not in the desert. It's actually in the Arctic. So the goat didn't actually adhere to the impossible. It's just a goat standing on a hill. So our friends at the creative agency Malt, they decided to put some wings on it, because then it made it an impossible photo because goats don't have wings. Well,
not yet, anyway.
No, not that. Yeah. And it does just happen. It's a very good kind of segue that what we're going to do is every guest is going to be presented with one of these. You can see.
Oh, wow. It is.
Yeah, so this is, it is printed on the back, so you can't see the weird and wonderful looks that people give you, but this is for you as a thank you.
That's for me
for joining. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, you sound so impressed with it. So next time you're interviewing someone, I do expect to see you with the goat. As you can see, he's got his own set of wings.
I can see my kids and everyone in my life just asking me all sorts of questions about this.
No, exactly. And your answer is because I can. There we go. That's all you need to do.
I think you overrate my confidence, but thank you all the same.
Yes.
I forgot to ask you, do you have a greatest of all time? Do you have an idol?
Look, I don't know if I would call him an idol, but I guess it's the person that I have learned most from. And it's a person that really has helped me work out what 300 was. And I didn't realize until I started thinking about it and what I created. I was like, oh, he did that before. So it was my old boss that employed me at PhD. His name was Mike Cooper. He showed me how, by having a single-minded proposition to a brand, communicating it, basing everything around it, who you hire, the technology you build, and how you then go into a pitch and all the collateral you produce around it to power this whole circle. He taught me the power of that and made PhD into a powerhouse in, it was about 5 years, I think it became the agency that it is today. So yes, I would say Mike would be my goat.
Yeah. But he's not to blame for the goats, just to
No, he's got nothing to do with the goat. I think he's got horses rather than goats. Maybe he's got a goat, who knows. Mm. Do you have a goat, someone that's either influenced you or you've shaped yourself around?
It would have to be Christopher Hitchens, who I just thought was he died just over 10 years ago. He was just one of the fiercest writers, debaters. There were no sacred cows. He wrote books about how, Bill Clinton was a liar. Mother Teresa was, a puppet of the church. There was nothing he wouldn't find sacred. And whether you agreed with him or not, I think it's a role model that all journalists should at least be aware of, is that, asking tough questions, being in love with great writing, having the courage of your convictions and working bloody hard and traveling the world. I think that makes him the greatest of all time.
If you are modelling yourself in his image, I will look forward to the articles and the interviews, and I will feel fearful for those that you interview.
Within the very strict confines of media marketing and advertising. But yeah.
Of course. You know, the world stops revolving without media and marketing.
Sure it does, yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
And also a big thank you to all of our listeners. Keep an ear out for the next 300 seconds.